Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to our breakdown, review, reaction, whatever I end up calling this thing, of course, the latest installment of the Twisted Childhood universe with Bambi the Reckoning. Yeah, I mean, if you're watching this, you already know, but maybe you don't, that we're kind of champions of the Twisted Childhood universe, I would say. We went in, saw Blood and Honey, and just like many of you, we understand. Movie not great, but we got to meet the directors and we got to kind of learn a little bit more about the sequel. We went in with some positivity and said, you know what, I hope these guys get to execute their vision, and I like nothing more, and Luke knows this very much, than to be validated, because I would say everything past that has actually been pretty good. A lot of fun little horror films. Luke, what are you saying?
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. The first film not as strong as the two following it, but I'll still say it has some positives, and we knew what they were trying to do and a means to an end. So I'll still speak positively about that film just because we did end up getting that sequel that is bonkers crazy fun, I think. And then we got Neverland Nightmare, and that was way different take, way different tone, but it really hit with me. I really did enjoy that film. So, I think we're on a great trajectory here. Bambi the Reckoning, I don't know about this one. I'm a little hesitant from the trailer.
Yeah, I overall, I gotta say, like, I'm interested, of course, because obviously it's the Twisted Childhood universe. I want to see this continue and prosper. I think there's a lot of fun ideas here. This was the one, however, that I was so mixed on just from the concept and knowing that, okay, we are going to do a CGI deer, because on one hand, yeah, I like the crazy, like, out there angle of this being like a creature feature. That's my bread and butter. Those are my movies that I love to sit back and watch trash creature features. But I always thought that this was going to like really clash with kind of the more slashery take that we're getting from these other films. And then, Neverland Nightmares kind of went for its own almost psychological, really grounded serial killer like story. So it did kind of change my perception of this, of being like, okay, I'm really excited to see what they do with Bambi. Maybe it won't be a generic creature feature. But from the trailer, it looks like it's going to be a pretty generic creature feature.
Yes. I was not as positive on this one when we had seen the other concepts for the other films. We got a strong lineup. Pinocchio Unstrung looks like it's going to be phenomenal. It's got a lot of care in that one, it seems to be. So, I'm really looking forward to that one. I just hope Bambi, and the feeling that I'm getting here is this might be a little bit of a step back from what we had seen in these other two films just recently, just because of the CGI aspect. I'm with you where this doesn't, one thing doesn't feel like the other, and I think Bambi's might stick out as a sore thumb. The trailer here, I'll say I give him props because it seems like, at least from the trailer, that most of this is taking place at night. And that's the big thing with CGI. When you're doubling down on this big creature that is CGI, you have to make it look good, and we know these are limited budgets and things like that. So, I think that was where my pure hesitancy came from. Now, Bambi's not, my favorite of the stories. So, that aspect alone, I wasn't necessarily sold on. But when we get into the CGI aspect and looking at the trailer, I think some shots work better than others, but then there are some scenes in here that I'm like, I don't know if that CGI is working for me. And depending on how long this film is, it's probably going to be at least an hour and a half. It leaves a lot of room for error. And I got to say, in terms of rewatchability and just pure enjoyment while I'm in the theater watching this one, I am really hesitant about this one.
Yeah, and I think it's just almost unfortunate that this one has to be the follow-up to Neverland Nightmares, because that one struck a balance where, like, I have no shame in saying that one does go for some more serious topics and actually does successfully land with the grounded nature of its story. I feel like maybe this one would be a little bit warmer for me if we saw it after Blood and Honey 2, just because Blood and Honey 2 has that zany quality to it, but like, we've kind of established a little bit more of those characters, even though they kind of retcon that. We're still like, having a lot of fun with that one. And then we jump to this really dark story that's really great. But, it just, again, like you said, I feel like people might look at this and be like, oh man, we're just taking a step back here. And again, I think that's just kind of the nature of the beast, no pun intended here, when you're dealing with a fully CGI critter on such a tight budget. It's going to be tough to cut those corners, I feel like. And there are some shots in here that I agree, they look great. Like, I love the scene of Bambi on top of the car. I think that shadow is perfect. I think it looks amazing. But then there's a shot where it's like it's either chasing a truck or a car. I'll have it play right here, where it just looks like he's floating over the road.
Yeah.
And it's just like, the consistency here. And granted, this is a trailer, so I would hope that not all of the visual effects have been processed all the way through. That like some of this looks okay, and then some of it looks like really rough. So I don't know, and I agree with you. It's like, as much as I can forgive stuff like this and have fun with it, the thing that's kind of I'm growing to expect from these Twisted Childhood Universe movies is that there's going to be at least a little bit of something more to chew on than just the generic, like, creature feature sci-fi original movie of the week kind of story. And that just kind of seems like what we're going to get.
Yeah, if this had come out maybe right after the original Blood and Honey, I think we'd be a lot more positive on this to say, okay, there's some quality. It looks rather interesting, but I think the placement here is, might hamstring it a little bit, because we already had Neverland Nightmare, and then Pinocchio Unstrung, I think, is later this year, and I think we talk about how great that film looks. This one kind of being sandwiched in between those two. This may just become a passing thought for a lot of people, just because the story does look generic. And yes, we've only seen the trailer. We only have a little bit of a synopsis here, but it doesn't scream that we're going to be getting a lot of substance here. It really feels like it's just this kind of, a zombified Bambi deer, and we're taking, we're getting the hunters, we're doing all this stuff where we're not really going to have a lot to latch onto. Now, I could be wrong, but it's just, that's what's screaming to me in this trailer. Now, it looks like some of the shots here, we could be in for a fun time. I do enjoy the hunter losing his head. I think, if we really lean into that tone and do some wacky kills, I think, I could find some fun in this, but it's all going to go back to that CGI deer of, am I going to be able to separate that and not have that affect my enjoyment if it doesn't look great on screen? And like I said, being in the darkness, I think some of the shots look great, but then when we bring a little bit more light to Bambi itself, it's questionable. So I'm hoping I can go in here and have some fun with it, but I really have this fear that I'm just going to be looking at this deer and being completely unhappy with it.
Yeah, and it's like, I know some people will probably eat us up for talking like this because, they are such small budget films, but I think that we've earned enough of our own street cred with the Twisted Childhood universe to lay some criticisms when we see them. So now you guys can't say that we're paid off.
But and that's kind of, we reviewed Rippy on the channel, and that
exactly.
one
I was about to bring that up.
It's just kind of, yes, you're lower budgeted. It's kind of like work with your strengths, and they are working with their strength of this being in the nighttime. So that's a positive here, but overall, the concept here might just not work, and I think that's why we were hesitant even going into this.
Yeah, to me, it's like I just don't know. It really seems like I can tell what the whole movie's going to be from this trailer, which it's never a good sign, because it's like I can tell that it's going to be like a mother and son who are being driven somewhere, like must be coming back from something, probably a divorce or a death or something, and then they get attacked by Bambi and they end up at this house with these hunters, and then it turns into that movie, where it's like Bambi's ripping through the house. You can see that clear as day. Now, to follow up on some of the stuff you were saying, some of the shots in here look amazing, in my opinion. the ones that really stick out to me are, of course, the one, like I said, on the car. But the other one is this shot. I'll throw it up right here. It's the one, I don't know if you paused it or looked at it, Luke, but it's where the little boy is in that clearing and you have all that smoke and the trees and you see Bambi there. Bambi almost looks like a Wendigo in that one. It's one of those things where it's just like, I adored the way that it looked. And again, I actually really love how big Bambi is. Like, Bambi seems huge in this. So it's like more of that monstrous approach. Again, I feel like at every like time I turn around with this trailer, it's like there's shots I really love, and then there's shots like this one where he's like drooling over this woman, and you get this like nice close up of the face, and it's just, you can see all the teeth there and they look so goofy. Even though I will say I like the design of having the jagged sharp teeth, but they just look so computer generated. Like, it just looks so out of place in some of these shots here. So it makes it tough. I want to be supportive. I want to be excited, and I want to definitely, ride or die for this film if I feel like I can. But I don't know. I kind of feel like this, like Luke said, was the weaker concept of them all, and the trailer's really not doing it for me.
Yeah, it's certainly a mixed bag here. We're picking out some positives, but leaning a little more negative than I thought I was going to prior to the release of the trailer, because I was going in hesitant, but I was like, maybe they'll wow me with after coming off a Neverland Nightmare. But it just seems like we're going to get this paint by numbers kind of story. Maybe this is just kind of, I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has this where we just have to get them on screen, so then we can work toward a bigger, that bigger Puniverse, all that deal. So I think maybe this could just be that chapter of, hey, we just have to get Bambi out there. We have to get this property, their version of this property, familiar with our audience, so that when we get into that bigger story, we're already going to know what to expect here. And as we look deeper down the avenue here and what we're going to get, I'm curious to see what that's going to look like, just because when we're playing with all these characters, are we going to keep this at night? What are we going to do to, make sure that Bambi doesn't stick out like that sore thumb when we're all on screen together? So the trailer here has certainly raised a lot of questions for me, not just necessarily the film itself, but what the rest of the universe is going to look like and how that character is going to fit in with all the other characters that we've seen thus far. So, overall, not entirely thrilled with the trailer. I think you have some good, you have some bad, but we'll have to wait and see for this one. I think I'm hoping to be wowed. I'm not expecting to be wowed. I just want a couple of good kills. I'm hoping they rework some of the CGI and kind of get it down to a perfect point, so that I'm not even looking for something that's absolutely perfect. I'm just looking for something that's passable. It's not going to be jarring from when I'm going into a scene and having a great kill, and then I have to go, but that CGI deer just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, and again, I think it's just, it's one of those things where the CGI, it is an animal, again, no pun intended, to take on here. It's one of those things where it's like, you gotta really know how to tame it. You really gotta have the money and the time and everything to put into something like this. And again, I will say there are shots that look great. There are shots that look terrible. But overall, I just don't know if like this is going to, again, my biggest worry is like it's just going to be way too generic, way too similar to all these other creature features that, again, I'm fine with. But I just think, like, again, like Luke had kind of said, it's a bit of a step back, because I think like we've kind of moved past that, it seems like. And the other thing about this that I will say, and I don't want to, call this out too much, because I feel like, again, small budget, we understand, we know the filmmakers, at least the producers and everybody behind this. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of reused sets, or at least reused areas in this that were in Blood and Honey too, especially in the forest. There's one shot in particular towards the front of this, I'm like 99% sure where that camper is
It
the
looked
opening
rather
of Blood and
familiar.
Honey too.
Yep.
Yeah. So, which I'm fine with if they want to like kind of use that in the story, which I'm hoping, I feel like Scott and Reese are smart enough to know that, especially seeing how they've integrated things across both films when it comes to Blood and Honey 2 and Neverland. So if there's a mention of that, I'm totally fine with it. But if they're trying to pass this off as like a completely separate area, I'm gonna have some a little bit of a harder time suspending my disbelief there. But again, I don't like, usually when it comes to this universe, we're on the other side of the foot. You know what I mean? We're here saying like, be positive, be strong about it, and I will absolutely be there. I will drag Luke kicking and screaming into the theater with me to go see this if I have to, which I know I won't have to. But it's one of those things where I gotta call a spade, and this one to me, I'm just not as impressed as I was with Neverland and what we've seen with Pinocchio so far, which I'm gonna put my cards down now and say I think Pinocchio might be the strongest of the universe by the end of the year. I just feel like that movie is going to really bring its A game. So I don't know. Let me know down below, guys. What do you think? Are Luke and I way off base here? Luke, any final thoughts?
I am going to support this regardless. Small filmmaking is hard. They're trying to bring something to the table here, whether it's knocked our socks off or not. At least they're producing something tangible. We do have a sort of avenue to go down in terms of all these characters going to be playing together. But honestly, I think even after seeing Bambi the Reckoning, I think I'm really 2025 is Pinocchio unstrung. I think that's really what I'm excited for. So, supporting it regardless, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Is this the Thor the Dark World of the Twisted Childhood universe?
I was thinking that in my head.
Were you really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's so funny. Okay, that's gonna be on the thumbnail. But no, it's we're being mean. But I am still very much, like I said, looking forward to this. Let me know down below, guys. What do you think of Bambi the Reckoning? I don't know. I just think like overall, this is hopefully going to pleasantly surprise us. But if you think we're being too harsh, let us know. And other than that, got a lot of great stuff up on the channel. Just saw a really strange Lovecraftian horror film called Unspeakable. You should definitely check out that review, as well as The Rule of Jenny Penn, which quite a surprise that movie was. So certainly check out those reviews. And yeah, we got a lot more content coming to you this week. Hopefully a lot more fun stuff. Maybe a little extra treat for you guys. I'm not making any promises, but keep your eye out on the channel this Friday. We'll see what happens. So alrighty. But other than that, that's going to wrap it up here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the horse shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna smash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna smash your ass.